Earthquakes. Terrifying.
It's like a nightmare.
Deadly.
If we had gone to bed 10 minutes later, I would be here as a widower.
And impossible to predict.
In a matter of seconds, everything can go away.
They can strike in the most unexpected places.
I always thought earthquakes were something that happens in California, not in Oklahoma.
But when disaster shakes the planet, the total impact can change engineering.
There are a lot of theories why those buildings perform well.
And even history. Hurricanes, tsunamis, earthquakes.
This was the deadliest tornado on record.
The impact can be devastating.
God completely wiped it off the map.
We step inside the disaster.
We were running for our lives.
It hits like a freight train.
And unravel the unexpected and sometimes jaw-dropping total impact.
Believe it or not, some good can come from these monster storms.
Earthquake sirens ring out across Mexico City. The alarms trigger mass evacuations. An 8.1 magnitude earthquake has struck, the largest in Mexico in 100 years. While the quake kills nearly 100 people in southern Mexico, it originates off the coast, 1,000 kilometers southeast of Mexico City, and the city is left relatively unscathed. For residents of Mexico, preparing for earthquakes is a normal part of life growing up. But they're unaware that a much more deadly earthquake is just around the corner.
From early on in school to your adult life, you're always doing drills for earthquakes. You're supposed to remain calm, listen to the leaders. Most people that live here are aware of the danger that an earthquake can bring. We all have that fear inside of us, but we also love our city.
Situated in the trans-Mexican volcanic belt, Mexico City was once the center of Aztec society. Today, Mexico City is a modern city, rich in history.
Mexico is awesome, it's great. I mean, we have a really cool weather, the people is awesome. I love Mexican food, Mexican music, Mexican culture.
Yet this thriving metropolis lies in one of the most seismically active regions in the world, along what's known as the Ring of Fire. Home to most of the world's volcanoes, this is where the earth moves and roars to life.
The Ring of Fire, of course, people get very excited about this. It's basically just the Pacific Rim. The surface of the Earth is divided up into about 10 plates.
These tectonic plates are in constant motion. Where they meet, along the ring, about 90% of the world's earthquakes shake the planet.
As the oceanic plate dives down beneath the continents, this pressure is being built up by plate tectonics. It slips, and the energy then radiates out across the surface of the Earth. It's this sliding process as they move past one another that generates the earthquakes that we feel.
You know, Mexicans, especially if you come from Mexico City, are aware of the danger that an earthquake can bring. Like everyone, you grow up with the stories of the 1985 earthquake.
On the morning of September 19th, 1985, Mexico City started to shake.
I remember very clearly, it was a little bit before 7 o'clock in the morning. I went to the window and I could see the water of the pool just moving from one side to another, you know, like. And then I turned on the TV to see the news. There was no signal on the TV. I called my boss. I used to work at a TV station, and he said to me, you have to come to the studio. We have to start reporting.
A TV producer, Carlos headed into the city to cover the aftermath of the quake.
It was really devastating. It was really shocking. Everything collapsed. People bleeding, hurt. I mean, imagine a bomb just crashing into your city. It's like a nightmare.
The earthquake killed 10,000 and left 30,000 injured.
The 1985 event was a magnitude 8.0. To give a sense of the scale, it's about as much energy is released as the largest nuclear tests that there ever have been, and several thousand times larger than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. The 1985 event was a real wake-up for Mexico City. There was a lot of damage, despite the fact that the earthquake was 300 kilometers away. So that was a real revelation. The fact that the earthquake was so far away from Mexico City really is what spurred the idea of developing an early warning system.
To implement the new early warning system, 12 seismic sensors were placed along the coast of Mexico. Today, there are more than 100 sensors. The sensors detect the initial P, or primary waves. These don't shake the ground and can't be felt except by the sensors, giving advance warning that the more damaging S, or shear waves, are soon to follow.
By putting seismic sensors close to the earthquake source at the coast and detecting the earthquake very rapidly, you could send a signal ahead of the seismic waves and provide up to about a minute's worth of warning before the city itself would shake. Mexico's warning system was the first early warning system publicly generating alerts back in 1991. And so there's no question, all of the warning systems around the world have kind of been following Mexico's lead.
32 years to the day after the catastrophic 1985 earthquake, sirens ring out across the city. It's the annual earthquake drill.
There's always like a standard procedure of where you should go immediately. There's like a protocol, you know? So we're definitely prepared.
That morning, Carlos visits his son on the set of a television show.
He introduced me to the director and some of the actors and gave me a tour around the hacienda, and then he asked me to stay. And I said, no, look, I have work to do. I'm gonna go back home.
I was with the director and the DP. It was very hot. So we went inside the hacienda to the second floor, and we went outside to this terrace to get a little bit fresh before getting and shoot the scene.
Meanwhile, Andres is preparing to make a pitch for his bicycle business.
We are a startup, right? So we were actually sitting down and we were just about to start the pitch.
Suddenly, 2 hours after the annual siren testing, the sirens sound again.
It was definitely a huge surprise. And then the earthquake hit. And we started to freak out a bit. I went out on the street and then I saw a lot of dust and this woman crying that a building had collapsed. And I didn't really believe that until I saw the collapsed building. And then I heard that there was another collapsed building and another one and another one.
It's a big coincidence that there was the 85 earthquake, same day. I just stood there and I was like, it's gonna pass, right?
But the shaking does not stop.
It moved really, really, really strong. But my reaction was so shocked of seeing this corner of the building of the hacienda collapsing. Because we're talking about stone and rocks. The director was next to me, and he evacuated as soon as he felt the earthquake. But instead of evacuating, I just stood there.
Before he can react, things go from bad to worse.
I remember feeling this black shadow coming to me, like boom, and just knocked me out. And I went to black.
32 years to the day of the country's worst natural disaster, Mexico City is hit by a 7.1 magnitude earthquake. As Carlos Jr. lies beneath a pile of rubble, his father is at home when the earthquake strikes.
I suddenly felt this strong movement, you know, and then I realized it was an earthquake. So I went out and saw my neighbor's house collapse, and I was just waiting for the houses to collapse.
As the tremors subside, 3 states have suffered widespread destruction. Andres has managed to evacuate onto the streets with thousands of others.
You would see people with their head open. You heard about people being trapped in buildings, and you just feel kind of helpless.
Carlos has no idea yet what's happened to his son.
I received a call telling me that Carlos, my son, was trapped under the rubble of the hacienda they were shooting. And they told me that he was okay, that they managed to take him to a hospital. But I thought they told me he was okay because they didn't want to tell me that he died. So I started to drive. I was just focused on finding my son.
While Carlos races to his son, the people of Mexico City mobilize. First responders jump into action, along with thousands of everyday citizens. International disaster response teams begin flying in from around the world.
The time following the disaster is crucial, so that clock is ticking.
Gary is deployed from the US with a team of 79. Along with their equipment, Gary brings his partner of 7 years, Tanker, one of 6 detection dogs on the team.
Tanker, he was easily the best dog that I've had, like an old pro. As soon as I put my equipment on, he knew it was time to go to work, and he was ready to go. When there's work to be done, rubble to be searched, the dogs are in that mode. Canines are able to detect people in an area much quicker than humans can. A dog could search in, say, 5-10 minutes, where it would take a human maybe up to an hour or longer. So that saves time, and by saving time, it could save lives.
As Gary, Tanker, and their team rush to Mexico City, hundreds of ordinary people race the clock to rescue those trapped in the rubble, forming human chains to remove debris. Andres also jumps into action.
The earthquake took away the roads, so cars weren't able to go pretty much anywhere. It was pretty obvious for us that we needed to help using our bikes.
Andres helps to organize a bike brigade, moving emergency supplies through the shaken city.
There were at least with us over 100 cyclists that were helping out, distributing the packages that contain mostly food, water, and supplies.
They deliver aid to some of the worst hit areas.
The ground had opened up, and it had swallowed some of the houses.
The catastrophic effects of the earthquake are worse in some regions than others. But why?
One of the real challenges for Mexico City is that it sits in this old lake bed, so there's a lot of soft sediments. And so that means that as the energy comes up towards the city, it's actually amplified.
The shaking of the sandy substrate creates what's known as liquefaction. Like a bowl of jelly, water-saturated sediment loses its integrity and acts as a fluid.
This is what causes the large scale of destruction.
With collapsed and unstable buildings throughout the city, there's no time to spare.
You would see people just trying to help each other out, and it did awake something in the crew, in every one of us.
Sitting on top of a juncture of tectonic plates, Mexico's geology creates the perfect storm for seismic catastrophes. Like a slow-motion car crash, the Cocos Plate dives under Mexico at a rate of almost 8 meters every 100 years, about twice the rate of other plates. And as the Earth moves and adjusts to the sudden thrust of an earthquake, another danger looms: aftershocks.
So when you have one earthquake, then just that energy traveling through the Earth's surface, it can trigger other earthquakes. The most aftershocks are smaller than the main shock by definition. However, it's also possible it actually triggers a larger event.
After the initial shock wave, Mexico experiences over 40 aftershocks.
We've been through some very substantial aftershocks, and all of a sudden things change.
At the hacienda, Carlos Jr. has no idea what's happened, till colleagues manage to pull him from under the rubble.
The next thing I remember is waking up in the grass and looking up and looking at my photographer. I was very dizzy and confused and scared.
As Carlos Jr. falls in and out of consciousness, his colleagues desperately try to get him to a hospital.
But it was chaos everywhere. We got into this hospital which collapsed, but they were attending people outside on the parking lot. I got stitches. They didn't want me to go to sleep because they knew I got hit in my head.
Hospitals are inundated with patients as victims of the earthquake are brought in from around the city. 40 buildings have collapsed, and specialized equipment and search dogs are brought in to look for signs of life amongst the rubble.
When we use things like our listening devices that can pick up somebody that's buried under a couple floors, we need complete silence.
Amidst the crowds, jackhammers, and generators, rescue workers raise their hand, the universal symbol for silence.
It's amazing how quickly everybody will quiet down, cars will be turned off. We can get complete silence in just a matter of seconds, and that's vital for what we do.
If a dog detects the scent of a live person, it alerts the team.
Once he finds a scent, he'll kind of come at it from different ways to find where the strongest scent is, and then he'll just keep barking there. If we've located a live person in it, then we'll stay there continuously 24 or 36 hours until that person's rescued. We have the equipment and the personnel to be able to dig through rubble. We have jackhammers. We can go through several floors of collapsed structure to get to somebody that's underneath. The feeling that I have when we pull somebody alive that's been buried under rubble is, it's hard to explain. Overjoyed, I can just still see the face of the last victim that we pulled out. It's an unbelievable feeling. I couldn't really describe it in words.
Yet amongst the twisted labyrinth of metal, concrete, and glass, there are places even the dogs can't reach. But there is one renowned group that dares go where most no one else would ever tread: the moles. South of Mexico City, the total impact of an earth-shattering earthquake is yet to be discovered. But as the city rushes to find survivors, Carlos has managed to make his way through the chaos to his son.
So when my dad arrived, he took me to another clinic. Everybody was surprised that I didn't break any bones. Everything is going through my mind. The accident, actually what happened. I mean, was it real? It was a really big earthquake, like a movie. CGI explosions everywhere. The buildings collapsing in a matter of seconds, everything can go away.
Since he was born, we've been so close. We're like soulmates. He's my best friend. I'm glad he's alive. That's all I can say.
Two days after the earthquake, 249 people are confirmed dead. There could still be survivors, but there are places too dangerous for anyone to enter. Too small, too unstable, spaces that could collapse in an instant. Yet there is one legendary rescue force that dares to go where no one else can. Los topos, the moles.
Los topos nacieron a raíz del sismo de 1985 por la idea de formar un grupo especializado que pudiera ayudar en temblores. Principalmente hoy nos dedicamos casi a cualquier tipo de agente perturbador. Somos un grupo especializado en búsqueda y rescate en estructuras colapsadas. El trabajo es sacar a una persona, recuperar un cuerpo o hacer un túnel tal vez para ver si hay alguien más o que pueda entrar a una unidad canina, un K9 y verificar si hay vida.
Internationally renowned, they seem to have no fear, crawling into the most inaccessible, dangerous places on Earth after disasters strike. Like Gary and the Canine Squad, it takes a special breed to become a mole.
Somos pocos en realidad, pero es que el trabajo es arduo. Tienes que tener, como dicen, la mente fría, dirigido a lo que vas y sí, lo que te encuentras, sí te deja una huella.
Like many aid groups, the moles are volunteers.
La satisfacción de haber ayudado. Pago no hay, todos somos voluntarios en la brigada. Nos ayudan con donativos, las personas, es nuestro tiempo, es lo que nosotros aportamos a la sociedad.
Teams from around the world arrive to help. 501 rescue workers, 32 search dogs, 440 tons of aid from over 27 countries. Then, on September 24th, aftershocks force rescuers to stop working. But just hours later, they're back at it, refusing to give up. But by then, the death toll has reached 370, and rescue turns to recovery.
And that's always hard to accept. We don't ever, turn that portion off of looking for the live victims. But we just know that the chances are decreasing as time goes on.
As the death toll mounts, the question arises. With Mexico's advanced warning in place, with over 100 seismic sensors, why was there so little time between when the alarms rang out and the earthquake hit?
So Mexico's warning system is very focused on a few seismic sensors along the coast, providing a warning to Mexico City and now to some other cities as well.
But instead of originating along the coast, the earthquake originated inland, closer to Mexico City.
The epicenter was 50 kilometers from the city. Because the earthquake was so close, the P wave had actually arrived in the city by the time the sirens went off. So you have this much closer, smaller, but much stronger shaking because it's much closer to the city. So the system did work, but it didn't go off until after the first seismic waves had arrived.
The disaster takes its emotional toll.
You're making plans for future, you're going through your daily life, and then somebody's trying to take away your city, right? Nothing else really makes sense. Someday this could strike again, but you just can't leave the city. It's a great city.
The Mexico City anniversary earthquake highlights the need for improved detection.
The whole system has to be much faster because the system has to provide warnings for earthquakes that are right beneath our feet. So we have to absolutely minimize the time it takes to process the data, understand the earthquake, and push the warning out to people. We cannot predict earthquakes today, for sure, and most seismologists don't think we'll be able to do it in the foreseeable future. And the reason is that on any given fault plane, there are hundreds of earthquakes, very, very small earthquakes every single day. And then on a particular day, at a particular time, one of these small earthquakes grows to become a big earthquake. So to predict the big earthquakes, you need to predict all of these tiny earthquakes and which one of them will become large. Plate tectonics tells us that we continue to get these recurring earthquakes in the same locations, similar kinds of magnitudes.
But what's happening when thousands of kilometers away, earthquakes rock unsuspecting communities far from any fault lines?
All of a sudden, boom! Just like a huge airplane had crashed in the yard.
It's the middle of the night when the Earth moves. 6 years before the Mexico City earthquake, and 2,000 kilometers north, a sudden shaking wakes up residents of the small town of Prague, Oklahoma.
I was in bed when it woke me up. We didn't know what that was. Earthquakes really were something that happens in California, not in Oklahoma.
There's a tremendous shaking and vibration, and we knew exactly when it occurred because it stopped our grandfather's clock in the parlor at 2:15 a.m. on the money.
A 4.7 magnitude earthquake had just struck.
We hadn't had any earthquakes really around here, so we didn't know what that was. Tornadoes, floods, hailstorms. Those are the disasters that you really thought about, for this area.
At 10:53 p.m. that night, they're struck again. It's unmistakable, a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. It's felt as far away as Wisconsin, almost 1,300 kilometers away.
All of a sudden, boom! Just like a huge airplane had crashed in the yard, the house started shaking, the walls began cracking, there's dust flying. My wife was screaming, crying. I was spread eagle legs apart just to keep standing up. And I just knew in my own mind that upstairs was going to come crashing down into the first floor. It was very terrifying.
We received a lot of calls. People thought there was an explosion because it was so loud and shook everything in town. A lot of people thought maybe something ran into their house. So the police department, they were inundated with calls. And then we got the teams out looking around for damage.
Joe and his wife had just gone to bed before the big quake hit.
We both felt very grateful to have left the room at 10:30 because our big chimney came through the roof and landed where she had been sitting about 10 minutes before. If we had gone to bed 10 minutes later, I would be here as a widower.
By the morning, nearly 30 aftershocks have rippled through the ground. 10 of them above a 3.0 magnitude. Houses look like they've been ransacked. 14 homes and a university building have sustained damage.
Every corner, there was large cracks. Over every door, every window, there were cracks.
Between Prague and Meeker, the highway actually buckled in places. There were a couple of injuries from the earthquake. There was a woman that was hit by debris that fell through the roof of her house. There was quite a lot of distress within the community, kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. When's the next one going to happen? And how big is it going to be? Is it going to be worse than the one before?
As a town and a state sit on edge, researchers investigate what was happening.
So starting in around 2009, Oklahoma went from a background of about 2 to 3 magnitude 3.0 earthquakes per year to a peak of around 900 magnitude 3.0 earthquakes in 2015 and 2016.
It was clear the region was being hit by earthquakes, but why? Prague sits nowhere near the edge of a tectonic plate, where most seismic activity occurs. And while Prague sits on a splay of the Wilzetta fault system, it was generally inactive. Why had it suddenly sprung to life?
We found out the earthquakes were caused by fracking and wastewater disposal. There was a disposal well located along the fault line just northwest of Prague.
Also known as hydraulic fracturing. Fracking is when a mixture of water, sand, and chemicals is injected at high pressure deep into the earth through drill sites. This creates cracks in the rock so natural gas and oil can flow more freely for extraction. When the process is complete, the contaminated wastewater is disposed of by injecting it back into the earth. In Oklahoma, the injections were stressing the previously inactive fault line, causing it to shift and creating a 4,000% increase in earthquakes.
They probably reached some sort of critical pressure, some critical threshold by which it started to create these earthquakes.
I did not know that earthquakes could be created. I always thought earthquakes was just the shifting of the earth, a natural phenomenon. I mean, it is a physical process. When you're pulling stuff out of the ground, you're creating a cavity. When you're pumping it back in at a high rate of speed, you're pushing things around. So, I mean, it makes sense that you can cause the ground to shift if you're doing those things.
I think we've come to the point where there's common acceptance that there is a connection between fracking and earthquakes.
Following the advice of researchers, the government began implementing stricter rules for fracking, and in 2016, mandated a 40% reduction in fluid injections.
So anytime a large earthquake would occur, they would immediately ramp down disposal in a certain area near those larger earthquakes.
You know, we were glad when the earthquakes started tapering off and minimizing in the intensity. They've pretty much gone away in the Prague area, but they're still prevalent in other areas of the state.
We don't necessarily know what the future holds, but it might be several decades before we're back to sort of normal.
Well, earthquakes can be incredibly destructive. In one instance, the total impact uncovers a secret hidden for centuries.
Eso fue el descubrimiento de mi vida.
When the anniversary earthquake hit Mexico City on September 19, 2017, the 7.1 magnitude earthquake shook south-central Mexico to its core. Hundreds were killed and thousands injured as buildings collapsed across 3 states. In Morelos State, just south of Mexico City, one of Mexico's most important archaeological sites, the Teopanzolco Temple, was also hit by violent shaking. Well, nothing can minimize the death and destruction of the earthquake. The total impact opened a door in history that might otherwise have stayed closed forever.
Yo estaba aquí en la oficina y de repente a la 1:15 que empieza a temblar. Se escuchaba como que un ruido de ruptura, de rodar piedras bajo la superficie. Fue terrible, terrible.
Living in an earthquake-prone area, the staff know it's vital to get out of the building.
Si se hubiera derrumbado el techo, pues ni salimos. Entonces todos salimos afuera y ahí ya continuaba el sismo y estuvimos espantados. Bueno, ¿y ahora qué pasó?
After Barbara and her colleagues make it out of the office, they receive upsetting news from their colleagues at the temple site.
Avisaron que se cayó una parte de la pirámide. Yo no pude creer.
Teopanzolco is one of the only surviving examples of Aztec twin-stair pyramids.
Teopanzolco sí es muy importante, aunque chiquito, pero importante.
As they inspect the site, they find extensive damage.
La sacudida que hubo debido al temblor causó que todo se reacomodó al interior de la pirámide. Sí resultó cierto que todo hundado, que es parte del norte de la estructura esa piramidal, se desprendió el muro, se salió todo el relleno y pues las grietas por todos lados. La pirámide se sumió 40 centímetros, entonces toda la pirámide ahora está enchuecada.
While investigating the extent of the damage, they make a frightening discovery.
Los pisos de los templos pues se sumieron. Me asusté porque fue terrible y además pues estuvimos haciendo pruebas brincando sobre ese piso así y se sentía hueco, pues se sentía todo muy inseguro arriba.
The site is closed to tourists, and a team of archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History are brought in. They use radar to scan the foundation and discover what looks like a hollow space under the temple.
De repente así aparecía como parecía una esquina de algo a la profundidad de 1,5 metros. Se suponía está el núcleo sólido.
The crumbling walls are stabilized and they begin to dig. They uncover a secret room, 2 meters underneath the temple.
Pues fue una sorpresa muy grande, muy emocionante.
The 6 by 5 meter room has double facade walls made of well-cut elongated stones, stucco-covered pilaster, a bench, ceramics, and an incense burner. It's determined to be a temple to Tlaloc, understandably in the arid region, the god of rain.
Es un verdadero descubrimiento porque siempre se pensó que es esa construcción externa que corresponde a de 1450 de nuestra era y la construcción interna que era la superestructura que se pensaba era 1300, 1350 y ya.
Surprisingly, it's determined that the new inner temple was constructed up to 300 years earlier than the outer structure.
Se construyó en 1150, 1200 de nuestra era. Complicó un poco la cuestión histórica porque mucho tiempo se consideró que Teopanzolco fue construido como copia de lo que fue Templo Mayor. Pero haciendo las investigaciones de temporalidad, pues nos dicen que Teopanzolco era mucho más temprano.
Out of the ruins and the tragedy of the earthquake, a piece of history is unearthed. And in the future, there may now be more to discover under the ancient temple site.
La arqueología abarca todo y sobre todo es una labor de detective de tratar de descifrar la historia a través de la cultura material. Pues yo creo que ese descubrimiento de ese templo fue descubrimiento de mi vida, pero pues fue muy trágico ese temblor.
Despite the damage to the temple, Teopanzolco has withstood the ravages of time in one of the most earthquake-prone regions of the world for at least 800 years. What is it that allows some structures to withstand the tremors of the earth while others crumble? Each earthquake gives an opportunity to understand their impact, and innovative engineering just might hold the answer to a safer future.
There are a lot of theories why those buildings perform well.
When earthquakes strike, their destructive impact on man-made structures can be deadly. But can old and new technology together save lives? Kit is an earthquake structural engineer and has spent more than 20 years working in earthquake-prone regions around the world.
The problem of the earthquake is so different from a hurricanes or flood event. The reason is there is no warning. And there's aftershocks. And some of the cities get really damaged really bad, like on Haiti. Almost 200,000 buildings damaged or collapsed that killed 300,000 people.
Kit understands that it's not typically earthquakes themselves that kill people, but their effects on man-made structures.
We have many older buildings, especially buildings built prior to 1970s. So basically what you see here is the second floor level, which collapsed into that. Many concrete structures, they're actually pretty dangerous buildings. Those things kill people.
When the ground moves underneath a building, it displaces the foundation and lower levels, sending shock waves through the structure. In tall buildings, this can create a terrifying sway. In many buildings, the structure is compromised and can collapse. Like the Aztecs' Teopanzolco temple in Mexico, though, not all structures collapse during an earthquake.
The Japanese pagodas, there are usually 5-level tower structures made of wood. And some were built over 400 years ago and withstood dozens of major earthquakes.
But how have structures hundreds of years old, built without modern building materials and techniques, managed to survive earthquakes while modern structures crumble?
There are a lot of theories why those buildings perform well. And one of the theory is the structure is made of the many flexible wood joints. And there's no nails or anything like that. So it's actually, structure itself is really flexible. And when it's moving around, the wood joints actually act as almost like what we call friction dampers. It's just sliding back and forth. That actually absorbs a lot of energy.
In the pagoda, the entire structure is also centered around a central pillar, the Shinbashira.
The whole buildings almost move like a snake. So that itself absorbs energy, very flexible structure. So that's one of the reasons why those buildings perform so well.
These ancient building techniques are similar to many of the techniques used to create earthquake resilience in buildings today.
But there are many different technologies out there to just make it better. Dampers are essentially kind of like a shock absorber in your car. Your car has a spring and a shock absorber. Just imagine if you take out a shock absorber, just on spring only, what kind of ride you're gonna get. What dampers do is reduce the movement. That makes a huge difference in performance.
A 6.8 magnitude earthquake strikes Taiwan. A construction crane on the 47th floor of a building collapses, killing 5 people. Miraculously, an inspection shows no structural damage to the building. But how? Built just 200 meters away from a major fault line, Taipei 101 was designed to withstand both typhoon winds and earthquakes.
How Taipei 101 works is they have what is called tuned mass damper. It's essentially really heavy ball suspended at the top level of this building. If the building moves this direction, this mass damper counterweights in a sense, so that absorbs the energy.
But not all construction requires such elaborate or expensive mitigation systems.
There's a myth out there saying seismic strengthening is too expensive. That's not true. Our study shows usually somewhere between 5% to 20% replacement, new construction, you can make the buildings good as brand new actually.
Adding the cost to new construction is even more cost effective.
Usually for dampers, adding maybe 0.5%, maybe maximum 2% to the construction cost, but that makes a huge difference in the performance. It's a really cost-effective and a very important thing to do.
As a rescuer who puts his life on the line after earthquakes strike, Fernando sees the importance of improved construction.
Porque hay que salvar la mayor cantidad de vidas y no ir a rescatar. Yo creo que aquí lo que importante es la prevención.
Earthquakes, powerful and unstoppable. Science is revealing that humans can even create them. And while the total impact of earthquakes is still being discovered, secrets from the past are being unearthed. And new and ancient techniques are being brought together to help stop the deadly effects of these earth-shattering events.